Okay, everyone ready? Is everyone here? Ready to go? Okay. All right. Well, tonight we're going to look at the self-concept pretty closely because the reason that you don't drop the self-concept like it's a hot potato is that there seems to be some aspects of the self-concept that seem to be attractive, enjoyable, positive. We talked about last night that Star Trek episode, The Thaw, where I think Neelix remarked, maybe they like it in there. And I was saying, if you were caught in a generated false world, we could say of your own making, the ego actually made it, and you had the escape hatch, like you had the escape hatch, and the escape hatch was active. It wasn't defective in any way. You had a really good escape hatch, and you weren't using the escape hatch. Then a good question would be, why am I not using the escape hatch? Why am I choosing fear, pain, suffering, guilt, or even, we'll say, fluctuating emotions? Why am I choosing fluctuating emotions instead of just joy and happiness and freedom? Why would I not use the escape hatch if the escape hatch was functional and operational? So there has to be something in there, and so we can take a look at the self-concept, which is the entire cosmos. It's not just a personality self, it's the personality self and the cosmos that surrounds that personality self. That's the entirety of the self-concept, because God created none of it. God creates in spirit. It's funny, and Terry likes to respond on YouTube videos. I had somebody on YouTube video, but didn't God just create this world so he could forget us and then, or forget himself and then remember himself? My answer was no. and a few more words, but short no period. Then I went on with a few other things. But the thing about it is we have generated a world where most people acknowledge that there's difficulties and challenges in the world. But then we're asked to settle for, well, why don't you be the one that is the positive one? If there's a negative, why don't you be the positive? If there are losers, why don't you be a winner? If there's those that fail, why don't you be one who succeeds? It's a world of duality, so those are put in juxtaposition as if they're both real. And if there are victims, why don't you be the hero? Why don't you save the day? And you notice our fairy tales, our cartoon heroes, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you can go back through all of them. It seems like those really do well at the box office. Those are the big blockbusters. There's the heroes and there's the villains. And I think we have to start to get honest with ourselves and start to realize that we made up, by believing in the ego, we made up a world of duality, and we must have had a reason for believing so strongly in this world, and it's that when you believe in separation from God, it generates an artificial split in the mind. In heaven, there's just the mind of God, the mind of Christ. Mind is one, it's capital mind, it's divine mind, it's universal mind, you could call it that. And Jesus says that the mind is the creative agent of spirit. So basically, when Jesus says mind is the creative agent of spirit, it's important that we don't dismiss the mind, because the mind is very powerful. But we also must recognize that the natural state and the natural condition of the mind is wholeness. God would not create a split mind. That makes no sense at all. Why would a loving God create a split mind of love and fear? That makes absolutely no metaphysical sense, so to speak, or it doesn't align, it doesn't resonate, it doesn't harmonize. And a split mind is simply a mind that believes in fear, but also has the Holy Spirit in it, which is the remembrance of love. So that's why Jesus is always using those terms, right mind and wrong mind. Your right mind is the mind that you think with God, and the wrong mind is when you try to think against God. And all guilt is generated in the wrong mind. The right mind is actually the residence of the Holy Spirit. So that's why it's important to be aligned with your right mind, because the Holy Spirit, which is our remembrance of our true self, is in the right mind. So that's the whole point of all the mind training, is simply to realize that you so fully go to the right mind that you realize that other option, wrong mind, is not an option at all. Why would you believe in guilt? Why would you believe in fear, punishment? On and on. It's the wrong mind is the ego's terrain, and remember, the ego is the death wish. So if you're thinking with the wrong mind, you're aligning with the death wish, and then it's no wonder there's experienced sickness and all types of emotions that really are not natural at all. They're all just generated from the ego. There is no fear in heaven. There's no guilt in heaven. There's no shame. There's no jealousy. There's no envy. There are none of these emotions in heaven, because heaven is the realm of God and of pure creation. So in this world, we have our heroes, and the heroes, it's like we seem to be liking to watch movies over and over and over, and supporting a movie industry that has villains and heroes, and we like it, of course. You could say the ego says, yeah, well, it's good that the heroes win, the good guys, the good girls and the good guys win. And there was we watched a great X-Men movie yesterday, but there was a more recent X-Men movie when there was a villain in it called Thanos, I think. Was that his name? And in the end, Thanos is all-powerful and kills all the heroes. And little boys and girls left the theater crying with psychological problems. Dad, Mom, what happened? Captain America, all of them, Iron Man, they just wiped out, and I thought, well, there you go, that's what you get on this planet, the heroes don't always win. In this case, Thanos was the one that was superhero. He was the top king hero, and everyone was wiped out. So we're going to have a movie tonight where we're going to follow the hero's journey, and typically in the projected world, you have your heroes and your villains, or the heroes are supposed to be succeeding and saving the day, and the villains are always doing bad things and so forth. But it's really underneath that is the stratification that says the heroes are different from the villains. The heroes are the good ones, and the villains are the bad ones. And I was talking the other day, I was saying, forgiveness is what Jesus wants us to do. Is he wants us to be able to look on the world and see everything of the world as completely the same. That's why he has that line, make this year different by making it all the same. He's basically saying that in order to see the world as all the same, you have to forgive the world, because the Holy Spirit can see the world as all the same. To the Holy Spirit, the world is neutral. So there aren't good bodies and bad bodies. There aren't hero bodies and villain bodies. There aren't those that are saving the day and those who are trying to destroy the day. The Holy Spirit sees the body as neutral because God didn't make the body. So the Holy Spirit sees its insignificance. And you might say that as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into spirituality, the one thing that will grow more clear in your mind is the insignificance of the body, the insignificance of it. Because as you get closer and closer to realizing you're a whole mind, and you always have been and always will be, then that is where the body diminishes in importance. So I went in to the course today, and for the movie tonight, I found maybe 3, 4, just a little bit over 4 paragraphs that I'd like to read to you as a setup tonight, because since our movie will involve the concept of hero, and we will explore that self-concept very deeply. This is from chapter 27 in A Course in Miracles. And the section is section 8, and it's called The Hero of the Dream. And hero is in quotation marks. The body is the central figure in the dreaming of the world. There is no dream without it, nor does it exist without the dream in which it acts as if it were a person to be seen and be believed. It takes the central place in every dream, which tells the story of how it was made by other bodies, born into the world outside the body, lives a little while and dies, to be united in the dust with other bodies dying like itself. In the brief time allotted it to live, it seeks for other bodies as its friends and enemies. Its safety is its main concern. Its comfort is its guiding rule. It tries to look for pleasure and avoid the things that would be hurtful. Above all, it tries to teach itself its pains and joys are different and can be told apart. The dreaming of the world takes many forms because the body seeks in many ways to prove it is autonomous and real. It puts things on itself that it has bought with little metal disc or paper strips the world proclaims as valuable and real. It works to get them, doing senseless things, and tosses them away for senseless things it does not need and does not even want. It hires other bodies that they may protect it and collect more senseless things that it can call its own. It looks about for special bodies that can share its dream. Sometimes it dreams it is a conqueror of bodies weaker than itself. But in some phases of the dream, it is the slave of bodies that would hurt and torture it. The body's serial adventures from the time of birth to dying are the theme of every dream the world has ever had. The, quote, hero of this dream will never change, nor will its purpose. Though the dream itself takes many forms and seems to show a great variety of places and events wherein its, quote, hero finds itself, the dream has but one purpose, taught in many ways. This single lesson does it try to teach again and still again and yet once more, that it is cause and not effect, and you are its effect and cannot be its cause. The whole purpose of this world is to teach that the world is the cause, and you are effect of the world. You meet somebody in a bar. Hey, where are you from? Hey, tell me about your family. Well, I was born, my mom and dad. My mom was this, my dad was this. And my mom and dad they met at such and such, and then there's the story, the story he talked about, of telling the story of how it came to be. Mom and dad came together and had some ooh la la, and that was the cause, and I am the effect. No. You see, Jesus is saying that puts you in a position that isn't real. God did not create you perfect so that you could be at the mercy of a dream and of the forces of a dream. And basically the human condition is the belief that I'm a human being at the mercy of forces of the world. Emotional forces, economic forces, forces of gravity, forces of all types of laws and rules that I must obey. I am a body, so I have to breathe. I'm at the mercy of the atmosphere. I don't know that I would do too well on Mars, but in this world, I'm at the mercy of the atmosphere because the atmosphere has oxygen, and the body's lungs need oxygen. At the mercy of water, you talk about water shortages as the global warming comes. Water shortages, people fighting wars over water. Who has the water? Could be in 100 years. Could be the big thing. Not so much a political war, but more of a survival war. Who has the water, and are we going to share that water, or are we going to greedily hoard that water to stay alive while other bodies die? So basically, I'll say it again, this single lesson does it, the dream, try to teach again and still again and yet once more that it is cause and not effect, and you are its effect and cannot be its cause. Basically saying, you were born of the world, you were born of parents, so your origin is a birth. Birth of the body is your origin, and your end point is death. And basically, you have to play by the rules of the world in between the birth and the death. You're at the mercy. And that's just taken for granted, except Jesus is not taking it for granted. He's basically saying, no, it's actually teaching your mind a lesson that you can never learn. It would be like trying to use your head and your skull to break through a concrete wall. That in this world even people would say, I wouldn't advise it. I'm thinking the concrete's gonna hold up pretty well if you keep beating your skull against it. Not good. Not a good strategy. And Jesus is basically telling us it's not a good strategy to not realize that the lesson that this whole world was made to teach is that you're a victim of the world. So he's going to have his workbook lessons teaching us the opposite lesson. I am spirit. I am as God created me. He will turn it around. Instead of being a victim of the world, instead of being invented by the world, he has a workbook lesson. I have invented the world I see. You see, he's like saying, don't project the ego onto anything or anyone, and don't even project it onto time. Try this lesson on, I have invented the world I see. He's not going to stop there. He's going to take us right into, I am as God created me. I am not a body, I am free, I am as God created me. But he's got to turn it around in our mind, because the cause and effect have been reversed. Now, if I think the world is the cause and I'm at the effect of the world, then remember when we were children, maybe we said it to our parents, or maybe we said it to our siblings, you make me mad. You hurt my feelings. You hear the cause and effect underneath, you make me mad. Not, I have decided to be mad. You see, it's very different from I have decided to be mad. It's you make me mad. You hurt my feelings. Siblings fighting. Mom! So they threw my grape juice out on the floor, and I didn't get a chance to drink it. punish them. It's like, that's, and it doesn't change when you get to be an adult, I would like to say, right, it's just childhood struggles, but no, when you get into adolescence and then you grow up to be an adult, it's adult version of the same thing. I can't believe what this politician did. I can't believe what this politician is doing to me, or doing to my body, or doing to all these other bodies. You see, it's the politicians or something. It's the same thing. So this is, if you see that that's the single lesson, that it is cause and not effect, and you are its effect and cannot be its cause. So then he says, thus are you not the dreamer, but the dream. And so you wander idly in and out of places and events that it contrives. That this is all the body does is true, for it is but a figure in a dream. But who reacts to figures in a dream unless he sees them as if they were real? The instant that he sees them as they are, they have no more effects on him, because he understands he gave them their effects by causing them and making them seem real. So instead of identifying with the dream figure, or we'll say the puppet or the marionette, Jesus is saying, why don't you first start to realize that you're the puppet master, meaning your mind is moving the puppet, and your actions that you call your autonomous actions of you as a person are not really autonomous at all, because there is no real autonomous identity, because God created us as spirit, as Christ. And this belief in autonomy is where the struggle's coming in. I mean, in the United States, we have all these different holidays, but when you get to July 4th, it's Independence Day. And the fireworks go off, and each culture has their own Independence Day, because, I would go to different cultures, and I was in Colombia one time, and they had a big celebration, and everybody was happy, and they were saying this is kind of like our Independence Day. So it varies by country and culture, but it's still this idea that I can celebrate independence, celebrate autonomy. And Jesus says the only true autonomy you have is in creation, that God created you perfect. And in your spiritual perfection is your autonomy. You like being autonomous? Then wake up and remember your autonomy. You're created as a perfect child of God in perfect love and innocence. And that's the kind of autonomy, that's the only way Jesus uses autonomy in a helpful way. He's saying it's your creation, spirit. Creation is spirit, and that's your autonomy. And because God created you, God gave everything to you, including creative ability. That's kind of nice. We were bestowed with creative ability from the Creator. God is not hoarding and saying, I'm the Creator, now you are my effect, I have all these powers, you don't get them. And no, God bestowed all the creative abilities into Christ, which is our identity. And in fact, they were so totally bestowed, they were 100% bestowed, and Jesus says the only distinction is this: you didn't create God, God created you. The ego jumped on that one and said, are you going to settle for second best? Are you going to settle for number 2? Come over here, I've got something called time and space, where you can invent yourself to be any way you want to be. You take over the top position. God is out. You don't have to settle for this spirit stuff. You can be tall, short, you can be any ethnicity, any race, you can be any culture. You can make yourself any way you want to be. The ego said, you can create yourself. You don't need a creator. And that's why when I watch an Oprah Winfrey show where they come over and she says, today we're going to do a makeover. We're going to take this miserable person and we're going to make them look great. We're going to dress them up. We're going to make up. We're going to do all these things. We're going to make them valuable and worthwhile. We're going to turn this loser into a hero. Maybe Oprah didn't say it exactly that way, but I'm just talking content now, not form. But basically, you see where if you really take a close look, then that's what's underneath the anger. The anger always comes from siding with the ego and saying, I would rather be autonomous and I would rather create myself than be as God created me. That is the source of all anger. It's an identity. Jesus calls it an authority problem. Because really the question is, who is my author? Is God, Spirit, love my author? Or am I the author of myself? Really, that's the only two options. And that's why, of course, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. That's why humbleness, humility, being peaceful, being joyful, being happy is so important, because when you are in that happy state of mind, you're acknowledging that God is the creator. Just a simple fact. Years ago, I had students back in the 1990s, and one day, they were reading the course, and they would read like a sentence, and then they would go, "What? This makes no sense at all. What is he talking about?" And one of the sentences they read was, "You can never be angry at a fact." So I said, "Yeah, isn't that beautiful?" And they said, "No, it's not beautiful, because I don't know. What is a fact? Give us an example of a fact. We don't know what that means. No one can be angry at a fact." And I said, "Well, God is a fact, and Christ is a fact, and no one can be angry at a fact. If you knew God and you knew Christ, you would not know what anger is. You would cease to know what anger is. You would only know love." And that's what we want to do. We want to use this movie tonight for that. So in this movie tonight, this movie is going to involve a video game. And some of you who like to really go in through the movies of from the Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment, I think a movie that has a lot of parallels with our movie tonight is the Lego Movie. Has anybody seen the Lego Movie? A few people. Little Emmett, the little Lego, who's kind of trying to live his simple, ordinary life and try to be pretty happy with his repetitive life. And then as it goes on, though, he starts to discover that underneath his fairly happy, repetitive life is some hurt and some sadness, some unfulfillment, some incompletion. And that's what we were talking about, the unworthiness. When we have to heal the unworthiness, a lot of it's unconscious. It's not something that we consciously are with every day. We may think we're pretty successful, like, well, not bad. I did a pretty good job. I'm pretty successful. But Jesus is saying, well, as long as you're identified with the hero of the dream, there's some hurt underneath that hero. And that game that the hero's involved in, that dream, is not a happy dream as long as you want something from the dream, or you believe the dream causes your emotions. If you think the dream causes your emotions, he said, that's not the truth. You need a lot of help. So in this movie tonight, we'll see it's a video game, and the video game is called Free City. Free City. And the main character is a guy called Guy. I always thought, wait a minute, I thought a guy was a reference to like a man, but no, this is a guy called Guy. I used to watch tennis a lot, and so one time I was watching a match, but it involved a French tennis player, and I heard the name, and of course, anything you hear in French is like 10 times better. So Guy, pronounced in French, is Guy. You see, right away. Even just Guy is Guy. And his last name, I said, Guy. Never heard Guy? Guy, that sounds really good. He's a Guy who's a Guy. He's. And then, what's his last name? Forget. The guy's actual name was Guy Forget. But in French, that is pronounced Guy Forget. I rest my case. The French language, if you can turn Guy Forget into Guy Forget, so anyway, our main character is named Guy, and he works as a bank teller in this city called Free City, and he lives in an area called Paradise. And so it's kind of a little like Emmett. When we first see Emmett, we see little Emmett, he's a happy Lego. And this is I think Emmett and Guy have a lot of parallels. And both of them, I guess we'll say underneath, they have an unconscious feeling that there has to be more than this repetitive world that they're in. And so basically in both movies, little Emmett is going along, and he's pretty good as his little, I think he's like a construction worker, and he lives in a nice little Lego house and so on. It's very cute. And here, Guy lives in Paradise in Free City, and he's pretty happy with his life as a bank teller, even though it's very repetitive. He goes into the coffee shop, orders the same coffee every day, goes to the same places, very much like human beings and their patterns, loop, 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 loop. Don't get out of the loop, because what's outside? Ooh, too scary to get out of the loop. Stay in the loop. And then he will admit to his best friend, and his best friend's name is Buddy. He will admit to his best friend that he still is not completely happy because he hasn't found her. He hasn't found his mate. Wow, this is Free City, and this is the game going on in Free City with the main character. And that's how it is in this world. They say, well, you're in the United States, that's a free country. And then there's third world countries and communist countries and dictatorships and everything. But here in the United States, we were always told, be grateful you live in a free country. We're a free country. This is Free City. Our video game is called Free Country. There's a lot of things going on in Free Country that maybe don't seem like freedom, but that's the thing, it's free. Be grateful you live in a free country. So we're going to look at a video game, and basically he lives in Free City, and we're going to follow along because it does involve. We get to see the programmers of the software. We get to see like a villain character. I think his name is Antoine in here, who steals the code of Free City, steals the code from the developers. Oh, that's not good. Stealing the developer's code. But that's another version of the authority problem of, I want to be in charge. I want to be in control. And it's interesting because Guy, one more thing I'll say about Guy is considered, as far as the characters in this Free City, he's considered an NPC. So anybody here is into video games or gamers? Do we have any gamers in the room? Gamers? What's an NPC? Non-player character. It's a non-player character. Yeah, it's a peripheral character, I started to write down some of these different names. Non-player character, NPC. Any character in a game that is not controlled by a player. Non-player characters can be thought of as the supporting cast or extras of a role-playing narrative. Non-player characters populate the fictional world of the game and can fill any role not occupied by a player character. So, yeah, background. And if you ask a lot of human beings, if you went around and interviewed them about how they feel in this world, they probably feel like an NPC. If you ask them, like, well, I'm just me, and I'm like I'm an NPC. I'm a non-player character. Now, the Kardashians they're players. They're players. And if you went to certain politicians and the global, the global politicians, the ones that meet and everything, or the stars, the stars, movie stars, television stars, athletic stars, artistic stars, it's the ones that become popular and famous that they seem more like the players. And then the rest is the supporting cast, like they'll talk about the famous people on earth and then the rest of the billions. It was unnamed, you don't need to name them. They're just supporting cast. Well, the thing is, Guy is a NPC. He's just supporting cast, and therefore he's supposed to be in the background. So like if you were filming a movie, that had Sylvester Stallone and all these famous people as the main characters, and then one scene involved going in and doing a bank heist or something, and there were tellers, we would say those are like the extras. They're like the supporting cast. They don't get their names on the credits because they're just supporting cast. So that's the fascinating thing about this. It's a fictional world. It's called Free City, and Guy is a bank teller, and he is just an NPC. He's a non-player character. And then he will start to have like miracle experiences because he starts to initiate some actions that are out of pattern for supporting cast. It would be like suddenly the supporting cast decides to get a little active here, and then, Stallone and all the big characters are like, get him off the set. I'm not coming. I'm not saying my lines. Who is this? Who are you? It's like these are supposed to be supporting, and Guy is supposed to be supporting cast. Now, what I like about this is this movie is going to show us the state of consciousness that believes in separation, because in society and in the video game, there's like stratifications. There's player characters, there's non-player characters, and then behind the game, there's the coders and the operators. And so in this world, we have people who seem to run the government, and then we have the people, the rest are the governed. There's the government and the governed. There's the ones who seem to have the power, there's the one who seem to have to play by the rules of the powerful, whether it's money power or government power or military power or whatever. You see, it's a world of stratification. And Jesus is saying, can't you see this is how unnatural this is? Why would you think this is real? You really think a God of love would create such stratification? The beautiful and the ugly, the popular and the unpopular, the powerful and the unpowerful, the victims and the victimizers. Why would love create this kind of bizarre game? If this world was a video game, why would you pin it onto God? Even though there's oftentimes a lot of anger at God, it seems it would be better to start to question, would a God of love have anything to do with this? In fact, I'm always interested in science and quantum physics, but I read an article maybe a couple months ago where they said now there's actually a majority of scientists who, if you ask them about their faith or their beliefs, there is now a majority of scientists, they said something in the article, like 65% of scientists now believe that the world is a simulation. 65% of scientists, including Elon Musk, who I've seen him say, this world is a simulation. Now, they don't, when they go to what's behind the simulation, that's, the same thing that people who are into religion. Oh, everybody talks about God and who God is and what God's doing and what's good for God and what's bad and what's in favor and what's not in favor, what will get you to heaven, what will burn you in hell, But this is 65% of the scientists. But most of the scientists believe that, like Elon Musk, they just speculate that maybe there's a future, more evolved race that has much higher technology and much higher use of powers that is experimenting, and this world is the petri dish. It's just an experiment of a future race that's more intelligent. You see, and from the scientific mind, that's what they believe. It sounds as good as anything else. They all sit around, drink their coffee. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Yeah, it does seem like, because the more they look at anomalies, like the Matrix, and the more they look at things, the world looks like an anomaly. Like Neo, when at the end, when he meets the architect and all the screens are there, and he's screaming and shouting on all of them, and he says, the problem is choice. And I think the architect goes, apropos, after he says the problem is choice. The problem is the belief you have choice in form is where this bizarre simulation seems to be going on. But underneath that is the belief that you can separate from your divine creator. That's where that originates. So for people who like to go really deep metaphysically, look, Jesus answers everybody's questions. Nobody who can say, I'm not satisfied. They can say it, but if they really follow what Jesus is teaching, they have to come to a state of happiness and drop the questions. In the end, you have to drop the questions. In this movie, okay, guy is going along, and then he's going to start to have like a miraculous experience where he's inspired to do some things, and that is going to be, for the programmers even, like, what is this, an NPC? How is this non-player character? What is going on? Is it some kind of glitch? You see, is there a glitch in the Matrix? And basically, he's going to go out, and then he's going to meet the girl of his dreams in Free City, Molotov girl. And so when Guy meets Molotov girl, he just tells Buddy, hey, buddy, she's the one. She's the one. It's just a feeling. But as Jesus uses everything in this dream to wake us up, that's exactly how it works. We are guided specifically to certain ones. We wouldn't all be here in this room having this talk if there wasn't a sense of guidance or draw towards something. There's something in us that's activated toward waking up. And then, interestingly, the dream starts to reflect that activation that we are having. Like our movie last night, I saw like maybe 4, 5, 6 people. They, these were NPCs, and now we watch Days of Future Past. Like they got a little sparkle in their eye. Like, I'm not the victim of the world. I'm happy, And then thus it starts to go. It goes on from there. It gets more and more happy. So that's going to be the interesting thing because Kirsten was saying too that some of the things you were talking about, that the biggest struggles you still have is around roles. It could be the role of a mother and the concern for a son. It could be roles that you're playing, and it's not like that didn't involve some effort to take on that role. Many of the roles we have, it involves a lot of time and effort to put that much control into the role. to make the role successful. If we were like, who cares? Just drop it, just take the shirt off, forget it. But so basically, he's going to start to get a more self-awareness that, like, wait a minute, and he's going to slowly start to know. It's going to be hard for him to realize that it's a video game. Because just for the humans, try to see that this is a dream. They're reading this blue book that's telling him it's a dream. Okay, yeah, and, but, it comes up, even though the book is saying it's a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. It's even in our nursery rhymes, our songs. So we can't say it's a new idea. It's like it's been around. So he's going to have to start to loosen. And how is he going to do it? But he's going to have to do it by collaborating with his dream girl. So you see, this is how it goes. You have to collaborate with your dream girl because you have to share a purpose that is more broad-reaching than just making a lot of money, having a house, or living this life, growing old, getting white hair, gray hair, and then getting sick and dying. There has to be something more than that game. It's a kind of a tragic game because it always ends bad in the linear time, Good. Yeah. Oh, boom. Yes, boom. It has a bad ending. And so, but maybe somewhere during the dream life, you start to think, I'm more than what I seem to be. I must be more than what I seem to be. And so that's what Guy is going to start to go through. He starts to feel he's more. He would like to collaborate with his dream girl, but she wants really nothing to do with him. Basically, she sees him as basically an NPC, initially, and so that's not a good start for your dream date. What have you got to offer? Oh, I'm a bank cashier, and she knows the game. Like, oh, wait a minute, that's an NPC. No, come back later on when you got something to play with, when you got some chips. So basically, he's got to go through all that, and then he has to start to look at the nature of the game, and that's what all of us are doing. That's why we're here. We're really all here to honestly look at the nature of the dream. Don't give me just the sound bites and what he said, she said. Let me get to the true nature of the dream and help me see that I'm the dreamer of the dream. And then I'm not at the mercy of the dream. It wouldn't matter what happened in the dream. The whole world could blow up, and if you're the dreamer of the dream, it's like fireworks tonight. Solar, what do they call it? Solar flare, like in the movie Knowing. And then, whoosh, in a matter of minutes or hours, the whole globe is toast. And you can enjoy the fireworks if you're the dreamer of the dream. But if you're a player or an NPC, you're what Jesus calls the hero of the dream, the body. And that's not pretty for the body. Toast is not... that's what they say in sports when someone is about to lose. You're toast. When your opponent says you're toast, that means you're going down. And so we want to be transcendent. We don't want to be toast. We want to be as God created us. And that's why we're here, to enjoy this movie. So again, comedy. We're coming right back with the comedy. This is metaphysical comedy. So enjoy. The only way you wake up is laughing. You're not going to wake up serious. In fact, I have a friend whose signature on his email is "Seriousness causes reincarnation." So just remember that next time you don't want to do it again. All right, let's go. Okay, so you can see it seems to be the way the world is going. more violence, more danger, and yet people become accustomed to it. They're just having he's talking to his best buddy, his guy buddy, guy and his guy buddy, guy and buddy. Wow, that's kind of cool. Guy and buddy are just like having their heart. And I still haven't found her. I want to find her. You still see, even though our guy is happy, lives in paradise, seems to enjoy his life, he still has something missing. You see? So there's where it relates. Even though they're kind of desensitized to what seems to be the violence of the world, but that seems to be what's going on. It's on the news every day. What's happening in the war? It's another war, another day in the war. What did they invade? Where are they now in Ukraine? It's, and there's so much that people start to become desensitized to it, but they still are just talking with their friends and saying, what's exciting for you? And for Guy, this $200 pair of shoes is what's on his mind. And her, his fantasy dream girl, his buddy's saying, she's a fantasy. That's a fantasy. He said, no. But he looked at his bank at the ATM, and he had, what was it, 187, 183, and he's close, because he's thinking shoes. You see, this video game is not so different. It's got some extreme violence, but they're just continuing to talk. Even when the robbers come in, they just drop down and have their conversation, like about what's going on in their life. They're not seemingly so concerned about it. So this is the starting point, and it's just kind of saying this is where you believe you are, where you're desensitized to certain things and you still have certain desires and things that you want from the world. And then that's what you talk about with your friends. What do you want? You think you're going to get it. On this. No, that's a fantasy. But no, I want it. No, it's a fantasy. No, it's going to happen. No. So this is where we're starting. This is our starting point. Okay. So that we just saw, that was Molotov Girl with Mariah Carey in her mind, the song in the mind, and then he sees Molotov Girl, and then Molotov Girl exits the dream, and it's Millie, and she's actually one of the ones who invented she was one of the original programmers of Free City, and she has a lawsuit against the one who's publishing, and now is coming out with Free City 2, Carnage. So it shows you the world. This is a world made by the ego, so that's how the world evolves. Carnage, more carnage, and you call it Free City, but it's really carnage. It's the marketing name, Free City 2, Carnage. Yeah. So that gives you the main characters there. There's Guy, there's Molotov Girl, she's part of Free City, and she's obviously a player. She wears sunglasses, and she even when she exits, she's there at a coffee shop. It looks like getting thrown out because it's closing hours, but so she's kind of using the player to play the game and do what she wants to do in the game, but also she's a player. So in terms of this world, that's kind of the difference between what we call the players and then the extras. And the players are the ones that believe that they can control the game or aspects of the game, make a lot of money, have a lot of choices. That's what we're taught when we're growing up. The more money you have, the more choices you have. So don't be a choiceless, homeless person. Be successful and make a lot of money and have good investments and good savings, and then you have more choices, and then you'll die with those more choices. But your family then will have more choices of the kind of coffin and where you're buried. They may not just cremate you. They may just put you in a beautiful cemetery with beautiful stones and all kinds of things. You see, this is carnage. This is carnage we're talking about. But you see, this is the game, and I just wanted to introduce you. So those are the characters. Here's Guy, you met Buddy, and then you definitely see Millie now, but that was Molotov girl who was walking with her black pants and listening in her mind to Mariah Carey. So there's the pressure to conform. All of us have gone through the pressure to conform. And then when you get on your spiritual path, the questions start. And then if you study A Course in Miracles, what is that? What does it say? Who wrote it? Rita's like, don't tell. She's learned to seal her lips. She just smiles. So here it is. You could see that, you could feel the way the music was and the intenseness, because he always gets the same kind of cup of coffee. And but he's feeling his calling, his spiritual calling, because he has met her, or kind of met her, or seen her. So he's seen her. And now he's activated. And it's so activated that he's ordering a cappuccino. And she's just like, what is stunned? She's stunned. And it's not, and even the police officer, Johnny, said, someone's going to get shot today. That's how we feel sometimes. When you have to make a move, you're guided to make a move spiritually by Jesus, and you feel like, yeah, someone's going to get shot today. It's going to be me. Because you're thinking this is out of pattern. But that's what a miracle is. It's an out of pattern experience. The pattern is the ego, just repetition, monotony, repeat, day after day, repeat. Go around like a Monopoly game, around the board again. Do not pass Park Place. It's like, that's what this world is. It's based on repetition. That's how the ego generates time. Jesus says history would not exist if you didn't keep making the same mistake in the present. Wow, that's an amazing teaching from Jesus. History would not exist if you didn't keep making the same mistake in the present. So now your mind starts to get fascinated, like, wow, there's an option. I don't have to just put my mind on repeat every day and just keep repeating the past. There's another way. There is another way. And that's what the Course is. It's literally came from two people who came together and said, there has to be another way. And Helen Schuckman said, you're right, Bill, and I'm going to help you find it. And that's what we're all doing together. So this is coming soon, the Apple glasses. You laugh, it's in the video game now, but Andy knows that they've already got the glasses where you can see things and read your email and do everything eventually. And now you see he's in a different position with those glasses on, because now he sees all kinds of information and sees all kinds of details and things. He can see a bit to what's happening behind the images. He can see with more of a sense of empowerment. And that's how, when we start to practice our spiritual journey, we do feel more and more empowered. Like, wow, this is a game, and I'm here to free myself from believing in the game. I'm here to free myself from the limits that I've placed on this character that I'm playing. And maybe if I keep removing the limits, eventually I can start to loosen my identification with the hero, with the body. You see? That's how spiritual awakening happens. As long as you're identified with the character and you feel you're at the mercy of society, you're at the mercy of all these external forces, that's when there's upset, there's anger, there's depression, there's anxiety, there's frustration, because you believe you're at the mercy of something that's external to you. If you identify with the body, you see the world as external to you. And Jesus is starting off his workbook lessons with nothing I see means anything, but basically the purpose of those 365 lessons are basically to show you that the world is not outside of you. The world is in your mind. It's a world of thoughts that you can release. You can release the thoughts. But he says, my thoughts are images that I have made. He's going to make a connection between the thoughts that you think, which are private thoughts, and the world you think you see, which is a private world. And he's going to say they're actually the same. You're just a prisoner in your own wrong mind by believing in the ego and these private thoughts and seeing a projected world that seems to be external, but it's not. So your mind is going to be the savior of the world. You're going to save the world by forgiveness. Not personally, you're not going to save the world. You're not like going to be a personal son. Hey, Mom, I just had a realization today. I'm the Messiah. And the mom says, yeah. Get out of here. Get back to work. So, but this is taking it back more and more and more to the mind. But wow, here he is now with his, he always was told the sunglasses people could do whatever they wanted. But it's just that they're wearing their glasses and they're aware of what's going on more in the game. So they seem to be more free. But that's just because of the glasses that they're wearing. But Jesus is telling us anyone who believes they're a hero, they're in the game, doesn't really know who they are, because their Christ self is not in the game. The Christ self is with God. So you can see when he's got the glasses on, he knows more about the game and how the game's played. Like the Elon Musk, like the Bill Gates, like the Warren Buffetts. They know the game very well. They're the ones they call the millionaires and the billionaires because they know the game. And then look at him. He's just put the glasses on and he's gone from 180 some to 2,000. He's just touched something with the glasses on, and look at the manifestation. He's manifesting. He is proving the law of attraction. Of course, goes way beyond that, but it's a stepping stone, and he's showing us the secret. The movie The Secret, the book, and he's showing us right here very quickly, just by starting off. I want a cappuccino, just by seeing a girl that he's convinced is the one, and he's now stepping out from behind the bank teller, and he's always supposed to just fall down on that scene, and he didn't fall. He did, but he got back up, and he was like, he saw her, and he's like, I gotta get some sunglasses. And well, here's a guy with sunglasses. I need your sunglasses. You see, and then it goes. That's how the Spirit draws us higher and higher, from playing small to seeming to be able to play bigger and bigger and bigger, and then to let go of the bigger to the vastness of our true real self, our Christ reality. So that fills in a little bit there. That Millie authored it, and he was the code writer, and so they're both kind of symbolizing, I have invented the world I see. They are the ones that originated the video game Free City, and now the boss, which she's left the company, she's like, the boss, Antoine, has stole our code, and he's going to use it to release Free City 2, Carnage, and he's kind of like in, if we go back to that movie, Lego movie, what was it, Mr. Business, greed, profits, and so on and so forth. And basically we see that they're both frustrated because she's left the company. She's very, very frustrated about the purpose for which Free City is being used, and even to launch Free City 2. So it's kind of just being phased out for a second one, for more profits, more money, more control, so on and so forth. She's out. And he's still there working at the company, people-pleasing. Should I talk to Antoine? Not talk to Antoine, people-pleasing the boss. But he's basically saying you need to go because it's too hard. But I think if we look at symbolically that Free City is the game, and then you have the author and the coder, that's the struggle of the ego. And Jesus is basically saying, well, why don't you first just admit, I have invented the world I see. Just take your mind back to that place where you say, I invented it, meaning I believed in the ego. I desired the ego. I wished for separation, and I have invented the world I see as a cloaking device, as a way, a game playing. I mean, we all know this world is filled with distractions. I mean, every day you can sense that pull for distractions. But I have invented the world I see as a workbook lesson because it's just saying, let's bring it back to your mind. You have to take it off of the character. You've been blaming the characters too long. The game was designed by the ego to blame the characters. So you're in the blame game. But you have to first say, I have done this thing, and it is this I would undo. You see, that it's just like 12 steps, where people go to 12-step meetings, doesn't matter which one, and they have to first admit that they have a problem. They're not going to go through a healing if they go in there, it's all good, how are you? What do you have to say? Fine, my life is fine. I don't want to be here. My so-and-so, my friend, my employer, my wife, my husband, my mother, my father is forcing me to come to 12-step meetings. I don't want to be here. And when you have that attitude, are you going to heal? If you're just there, it's another game. Okay, I'll people please my partner, my mother, whoever, and I'll just sit through how many sessions. Some of you have seen that movie, Anger Management, where the main character has to go to anger management, and Jack Nicholson is the therapist. But initially, the main character is saying, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. And until he comes to admit that he does have an anger problem, there is no hope of releasing that anger, because it's just a cover over the anger, like protecting it. So that's giving us a little bit of an idea that here, even with Millie and her and the coder there, and the other coder, all of them are still what Jesus would call still trying to play the hero of the dream, whether in the video game or outside the video game. If you're identified with the personality self and the body, you're still trying to play the hero. It's just that part that invented it is the mind. So that's why we have to get back into our mind. We have to start to take a look at our thoughts and beliefs. This world was made to keep you mindless. This world was made to keep you from remembering that you have a mind and you are a mind. If you ask most people, tell me about your mind, and they might say, what do you think, I'm a psychologist or a psychiatrist? I'm just a waitress, a construction worker. You're asking me about the mind. Go ask Freud. Ask somebody who studied the mind. I'm just a guy, a girl doing the best I can, and so on and so forth. But the world was made to keep you mindless. And then if they say, what about the brain? Oh yeah, that's that thing that's inside of my skull, that gray matter. And then people do associate the brain with the mind. There's a lot of scientists that associate the brain with the mind. There's a lot of people that do associate the brain with the mind. There's even spiritual teachers, if you go listen to them, they'll say, the brain told me to do this, and the brain told me to do that, and this and this. But the only thing is the brain is part of the projection, and now it's been assigned the qualities of the mind. You see how sneaky the ego is? It's made a substitute identity, the body, and a substitute thing that is projected with thoughts, but the brain doesn't think. The brain's just a projection. So that's why when you really work with the Course, you start to realize, wow, he's just wanting me to look closer at my mind. He's asking me to do mind training. He's asking me to look into my mind fearlessly with him and look at the unconscious mind, look at what's going on in my mind, and suddenly we see how important it is to be aware of what's going on in the mind, and we might call that consciousness. because consciousness is the domain of the ego, but it's often associated with many, many different things. Even when teachers say God consciousness, they don't really understand that that's a contradiction in terms, because God is pure spirit, and consciousness is the domain of the ego. So it's like saying, oh, God consciousness is like spirit domain of the ego. You see, it doesn't go together. But that's where the metaphysics of the Course are so helpful and so different from a lot of things. But it helps you when you can discern these things for one purpose, for one's own mind training. That's the only purpose. So, okay, here we go. Free Guy. Now, the last we saw him, Free Guy was hit by a vehicle, a high-speed moving vehicle. And I think he's also discovering that in this game, the body doesn't really die. And that is a pretty strong realization. Imagine if you looked at this world and you saw it as a video game, and you see that your character couldn't really die. They could seem to disappear or change scenes or something like this, but not really be gone, in the sense that, or maybe that you would take on another character, which happens in games a lot, put on a new skin. That's what they're saying. Put on just a different skin, different clothes, and so on and so forth. So the glasses are, in some way in this movie, symbolizing some kind of upward mobility, even though it's a bit of a stretch to say that you go up in points when you get stuff, because the ego is the getting mechanism. And I think some of us have tried the get stuff route, and it didn't bring lasting happiness. We tried, but it gets us so far, and then we is that all there is? The Peggy Lee song. Is that all there is? Is that all there is? But in this sense, it's just like in this world, poverty, what's called poverty, and what's called abundance. And people say, well, you can use the power of your mind to manifest more, and you can learn to be abundant, and so on and so forth. It's just a stepping stone idea, but it's one of those things when you go through it, then you start to realize, well, what is that for? Is material abundance really what it seems to be in the dream world? Does the material abundance bring happiness? And I just showed last Saturday the Marilyn Monroe story, the mystery of Marilyn Monroe, and of course she seemed to ring the bell on across the board with everything. People would say, well, yeah, she just succeeded at everything, and yet she was suicidal at the end, and very, very unhappy. And I've had a few people that have contacted me since I showed that movie, and they said that was the most striking thing. They never had really considered how someone like that had everything the world could offer could be so sad. It was like a striking it pierced through their mind, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I putting my effort into? So in this movie, he's basically saying, though, right here to his best friend Buddy, it's like, here, put the glasses on. Like, there is more, and you can experience the more, and you can see the fear in Buddy's eyes. It's like, no, I'm not going to put the glasses on. And Buddy is so attached to the role of being the security guard at the bank that that's just his life. He can't go past it because his mind has defined his identity in that role, in that comfort zone, so to speak, ego comfort zone. But I think that's what's really good about this movie, is it's showing, first of all, in a pretty extreme, dramatic way, that we do have to outgrow the roles. Now, what Jesus is offering us, instead of get stuff, his offering is the miracle. That's why it's called A Course in Miracles. He's saying, you need to be used as a miracle worker. Your own mind can be a conduit for miracles. You don't need a resume to perform these. Jesus is like, I'm ready. So if you're willing, let's go. You see, it's not like you got to prepare yourself first, and then when you prepare yourself, then I'll use you for miracles. He's saying, no, I'm the one who performs miracles, and I'm ready now. So if you're willing now, that's all it takes. And that was for me a big thing because, when I was reading the Course and I started reading about miracle workers and everything, and I just thought, yeah, but I don't think I'm there yet. I really don't think I'm there yet. And Jesus was like, you said yes when I asked you. And when you said yes, that was you saying yes to let me perform miracles through you. Let me use your mind to free it, to bring a blessing. And in this movie, it's so clear, though, that as soon as he starts to open up to there's more, and the more that he wants is the girl. When I was watching him do all these things in the last 20 minutes or so, half an hour, it's like that song, the things we do for love, the things we do for love. He's just jumping. She's like saying, come and talk to me when you've reached 100. And right away, he's counting his points. He's counting his level because he wants to be with her, and he's going to do what it takes. And then that opens us up to deeper questions, and it opens up to deeper purpose, like the purpose of the whole game. I mean, he's just using everything that's given to him for his purpose to talk to her and to interact with her, and he wants a relationship with her, so he's using all those things just for that. But then, again, we all know that's the beginning. It's like, really, the question is, what is the purpose behind it all? What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose behind the dream? And that, again, is where Jesus comes and says, well, the world was made in hatred. But now if you can come back here with me to the dreamer position, from the dreamer position, we can change the purpose of the world. Not from the character position, because the characters are just projections of the purpose that we give to the world. But if my purpose is forgiveness, wow, then that's going to change my perception of the entire dream. And that's good. Talk about empowering. That is what the empowering is. So it's not get stuff, it's forgiving. Use the world for giving. When Jesus said that 2,000 years ago, he said, freely you have received, now freely give. So when I started what was it about? It was about 30 years ago when Jesus took me on the road. He was just saying to me that pretty much every day, freely you have received, now freely give. So I wasn't free guy at that point. I wasn't blue shirt guy. I was timid guy. I was shy guy, or shy guy. I was a shy guy, the French pronunciation. But I was the shy guy, and then Jesus was like, well, you said yes, so I'm not interested in the shyness. That is not a problem. And I said, yeah, well, it seems like it's a problem to me. And he's like, but you said yes. And I said, yes, I did say yes. And so, he said, yeah, this has gone on throughout history. Moses stuttered, and he had to deliver the 10 Commandments. He picked a stuttering Jewish man to deliver the 10 Commandments. And that Jesus was like using that as an example, like, listen, your shyness is not really an obstacle for me. You said yes. You said yes. I'm the one that will perform the miracles through you anyway. So you said yes, meaning I'm willing. And he said, that's all that's required. I don't need a resume. I don't need you to tell me what you're good at and not. I already know all that. You just said yes. You said, I am willing. And then that's when the miracles start coming. And it starts to feel good. Like Free Guy felt at the beginning, he just was like, once he saw the girl, then he was like, okay, there's more. to life, and there's more than being a bank teller and having the same cup of coffee every morning. And that's all it took. Wow. Once he got into that, you can see now he's becoming quite famous, blue shirt guys, even all over the world. Everyone's blue shirt guy. How did it happen? An NPC is blue shirt guy. Look at him rack up those points, and he's an NPC. He's an extra. He's not even supposed to be a main character. He's not a player. He's not even playing the game. And you can see even the players are reacting like, wipe him out, destroy him, get him out of there. Don't let this end. Let's get back to the game. And he's breaking the mold. And that's what really Jesus is calling all of us. He's saying, I'm calling you out of the world. I'm calling you out of the video game that the ego made. And let's have some fun. And if you say yes to Jesus, you're inviting some major fun when you say yes in that way. So this is the boss. And, the ego, he's like playing out our ego. Impulsive, inconsistent, changes its mind all the time. You know how it is when it's in your mind. When you know how you feel like, wow, I said I would do that, and now, oh man. And then the guilt comes in from the lack of consistency. There's no integrity. The levels of your mind are not lined up. And really, you say, wow, it would take a miracle to line my mind up. And Jesus is like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking you to join with me, because it will take a miracle for you to have integrity. We're back to Maria's first prayer. I want to know God. I don't want to read more books. I want to know God. And Jesus is saying, yeah, it's through integrity in our mind. That's just an upgrade. That's just a temporary upgrade. Yeah, that helps you get stuff. Well, I'll talk to Tony Robbins for you. Okay. That's pretty strong. But that's what you're dealing with when you work with the Course. So it still comes back to the guidance, but she's just like, because of her fear that he will possibly cease to exist, she doesn't want to hide that from him. But that is the belief in sacrifice. It's like the belief in sacrifice is at the bottom of the unconscious mind. So it seems like in order to remember God, you have to give up something that's real and important and valuable that isn't actually real and important and valuable. That's what Workbook Lesson 133, is all about. Jesus is telling us in there, he says it's important to bring the student back to the practical, what's relevant, so I'm going to give you the difference between what's real and valuable and what is valueless. And the title of Workbook Lesson 133 is I will not value what is valueless. But basically Jesus' criteria are, if it won't last forever, it has no value whatsoever. And if it will last forever, it has all value. That's the criteria. So you can see how that dovetails into the introduction. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So it's really, that's what miracles do. They just come through you, come through your mind, and little by little, you start to feel joy, you start to feel happiness and love, and that is convincing. That experience of the joy and the love is what takes you, is what carries you, is what lifts you. It's a convincing job. We have to admit, it's a big turnaround to think that the world is the cause and my state of mind is the effect of the world, versus my state of mind is where the causation is. And if I'm happy, then everything turns happy. When I am healed, I am not healed alone, which is a recent workbook lesson that people have been doing. So, yeah, this is the point. And then usually once this comes in, then there's usually a reaction, a resistance that arises. Nobody's at the bank. When I'm healed, I'm not healed alone. They're dropping the rolls. Nobody's in the bank. The robber shows up with his gun, and there's nobody there. I remember somebody listened to me one time for I would talk all day, morning, afternoon, evening. I'm talking all day long. And then this guy said, David, if we followed what you're talking about all day today, if we really, really followed it, the world wouldn't exist anymore. And I said, exactly. That's the natural outcome. If the world is just a projection of doubt thoughts and false identity, if you drop it, if you really drop it with Jesus' help and the Holy Spirit, then you can do like the Truman Show. In case I don't see you anymore, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And he takes a graceful bow before he goes through the exit door. And Sylvia comes rushing down to meet him. This is a scene of great love. Like she was always advocating for him to escape. How will it end? And wearing that pin. So yeah, this is really beautiful because it's really showing that he's sharing the ideas. Both of them are sharing them with all the people, and they're a little curious with him, but then the more they share, the more they start to really believe in the ideas. Now, ego may be saying then that's not going to happen, but I remind you that there is a section in the Course where Jesus says, I need do nothing. It's a walkout. It's a drop out from the ego in its world. He does place it there in the text where he says, please do this one thing for me to show your loyalty. When Jesus is asking you for loyalty, then aren't you interested in what he's going to say for that loyalty? And he says, just believe this one thing, but believe it, fully, truly. I need do nothing. Of course, that would be the release point. He's saying you can escape thousands of years. You can save thousands of years by just this one thing. And then he goes on to explain the means for I need do nothing. He tells you the means for it. Holy relationship. Save thousands of years. Instead of meditating 8 to 12 hours a day, instead of fighting against sin, instead of all these other things that it will reach the goal because of their purpose, do this one thing for me. Say and mean, I need do nothing, and holy relationship, accept the means that has been given you to save time. And then he goes even one more step, because then most people are going, okay, what is holy relationship then if that's the key? And he says, you and your brother are together. He's saying there's not two. There's not multiple. You and your brother are together. You share the same mind. You are the same self. We all are the same Christ. It's a trick to believe that we're separate from each other. What seems to be the world is just a projection of this crazy separate belief, but it's not true. And it's healed in the holy relationship. So that's why he says in the workbook, all you have to do it is with one person. Just do it completely with one person. It'll transfer immediately to everything and everyone. It's not a cumulative thing. It's an instant. Like Buddy in here. Well, this moment, we have this moment. I love you in this moment. I'm here helping a friend in this moment. You hear that moment. Buddy was like, yes, 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 yes. When Buddy was told, you're not real and none of it's real, his answer was, this moment is real. You see? That's it. That's our Eckhart Tolle moment. Buddy got to speak the words, yeah. But to have faith in that, to have faith that all the things that say you're different, all the things that say it's a world of differences, competition, it's a world of scarcity, you have to look out for number one. That number one is not the body. That number one is the spirit. That's what look out for number one is. Look out for the one God created.
I have a question. So you said one true holy relationship would heal all minds. Well, so nobody's had one. Nobody's had one. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Jesus says in the Course, he said, when I awoke, you were with me. Yeah.
So he was the one. We're already healed.
Yeah. It's the healing is there. It's just like, it's like Jesus saying, if you want it, here it is. Come and get it. and it lasts forever though. It's there. But this movie's kind of showing the flip now because, they're doing everything. Antoine's doing everything he can. First, he's like saying, reboot the whole thing, and that'll take it back. And imagine, if you look at the history of Earth, there have been civilizations like Lemuria and Atlantis, and just recently they were saying they saw something on the bottom of the ocean that looked like a gateway into Atlantis or whatever. But so the ego just keeps generating more and more perceptions of differences and illusion to cover over the advancement. Even here, we could see Free Guy was advancing, and their relationship was growing stronger and stronger, and then reboot, and then she refused to think that she couldn't make contact with him. In fact, it was Keys, her partner. And it's interesting, the two that developed the game were struggling, during that interview. Or you guys have such great chemistry. No. And she coder, and they both took all the time to tell in the interview that how they were different from each other. And the interviewer was saying, you have such chemistry. And now here it's all playing out in the game that they invented, where Free Guy is now, he had a memory in there, and he saw it reflected on the little shades of something that he saw beyond, and she said, "Oh my God, that's it! It's the reflections weren't deleted from the program by Anton." So you can see it's all kind of taking more and more to that point of like, how much do I want to remember what's actually real and true? It's how much do I desire that?
What I was saying before is like, you don't see reality like I see reality. I have a perception problem. It's like I am seeing through a darkened glass. And what I was thinking was, when Jesus cleans that filter that I have, I am going to see reality.
Yeah. That's the spiritual vision. That's Christ's vision. That's the destiny. That's the destiny that's inescapable, because it's our birthright. It's our inheritance.
Yeah. And when I saw that he put classes and he saw something totally different, I was thinking, that is going to be me when my filters are clean, and instead of seeing this crappy world, I am going to see the real world.
Yeah, maybe the things you'll see with your glasses are all these real thoughts, and you'll just say them and share them all the time, on cue. There it is. Oh, there's the I love you. Oh, I wanted to say that one. You see, so the beautiful thing is it's just showing us that that ideas are strengthened as they're shared, and even the movies we're watching and what you're hearing through the commentary, it's igniting, it's like, yeah, I can recognize it. I recognize this. I know this. This is, to recognize must mean you've already known it before. That's what recognition means, to know something that you've known before. It's like recognize, the thoughts are shifting and changing. And isn't it great here that all the ones, the non-players, the ones that were supporting cast, are reacting and responding to the ideas that are being shared. And they're dropping out of the competition. They're dropping out of the wars. They're dropping out of attack and defense. They're just like saying, no more, no more. I will not play that game of attack and defense. But it's like a memory, he's our free guy is representing, there's an ancient memory that's in there, and she had to have the willingness to believe it was there, and she could make contact with it. And at first, he was reflecting, he was just free guy, and no, I'm a bank teller. But then she just had such faith. It was more than that, so much more.
He rose to the occasion.
Yeah, he rose up. Now they're calling in everybody in the game. The players are all like, "What's happened? Where are these non-players?" This is what happens when you go for the real world. The ego. This is like, oh man, you thought you had destruction before. I'm gonna throw everything, because you start to get close. They're going for what's been hidden, the real world, or that it's all been hidden from their game, from their perception. And now they are set to go there, and under Antoine's orders, it's the go for it, which is destruction. The ego is pure destruction, pure death wish. So, we've seen some great movies, The Island. There was the doctor in The Island, and he's trying to strangle the main character. He says, "I brought you into this world, and I can take you out," which is the ego's version of this. In other words, it's just using the symbols, the bodies, and the images to cover itself. But underneath all this world is the unconscious death wish. And again, though, Jesus is saying, well, it's not real. If you'll take my hand, if you'll just give a brief bit of time to follow my guidance and to let me speak through your body, let me laugh through your body, let me hug through your body, stop chasing the game, stop chasing the things that the world's saying. In one sense, he's like saying, well, the secret and the law of attraction and everything, that I can even use the law of attraction to take you where you really want to go. Because the law of attraction is love for love. Love is attracted to love. We have, ever since the separation, seeming separation, we've been have this something inside of us that is like the eternal spark, the eternal flame, and that flame is like the Holy Spirit, and that will just grow bigger and stronger as we line up with it. Use my body, use my words, use everything in the dream. That's what I was saying initially to Jesus after I was doing the course, and then I finally thought, okay, this is it. I really need to give it all over. So I had a moment of take everything in the world, and I give it to you to use for your purposes, and that's how we come back to the forgiveness. It's the transfer of the purpose. Before, we were using it to prop up the ego, to build like a personal image, a personal self-concept, and then when we finally say, that game is over, I want to let it all be used to bring a blessing. I want to let it all be used to bring a blessing for everyone and everything without exception. Then that's the turn in our mind. And our mind is so powerful. When we do make that statement, then that's it. That activates the awakening. And we can see it happening here, even though the ego is like trying to throw cars, vehicles, anything to stop them from getting to the beach, and even the buildings are crumbling. Yeah, it's just amazing to watch. Okay, all right, very good. Yeah, what a great movie. And before I came over here, I was just praying again. I said, well, it's going to be a great movie, but anything else, Jesus? And he said, yeah, I want you to play a song at the end. We need to activate the chord here. He said, well, I had you read that part about, the hero of the dream is the body and so on and so forth. But he said, well, hero is just a word, and I can reinterpret that word for you. What if I'm the hero? What if the kingdom of heaven is within you, and what if the hero lies within you? Mariah. So instead of having this, we've got our music ready. Sit back and let Jesus reinterpret the hero. The hero lies in you. The hero is your Christ self. The hero is the Savior of the world that is pure love, not the body. And Jesus seemed to appear as a body, but we all know that was just a reflection of the light, the I am presence prior to time. So here we go. Sit back and enjoy. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this experience together. Yeah.